Well, welcome, Adaline, Wollam, and your maiden name was Bellinger, right?
Yes,
okay.
Bellinger.
Very good. And you were born here, so
yes.
Tell us a little bit about how your family got here, your father and your mother. How did they come to Charlevoix?
Well, I think probably they were both here, born in Charlevoix, as far as that's concerned.
Okay.
My grandparents, now, that's a different one.
Go ahead and tell us about this.
My granddad came from the New York area by boat and landed at Maple City, near Maple City. Maple City doesn't have, but near there, and stayed with an uncle there. Then he came into Traverse, and I guess that's where he met my grandmother, because she was from Traverse. But anyway, he walked from Traverse to Charlevoix.
Wow.
And for his board and room stuff, he would stop at various places and fix machinery and clocks, of course. He was mostly clocks, but he was good with machinery too. So he would help the farm fix up machinery they had for his room and board. And that's the way he walked to Charlevoix. Then I don't know exactly what from there, but he did have a shop there at Charlevoix, a clock shop or clock repair shops too. Okay. He had a picture of a clock hanging outside on a post. It was nothing but a picture, but people would stop and set their watches at it.
Oh,
and of course there was no, it was almost the same time. And we'd laugh about that. I always loved it when they had the cuckoo clocks. He sometimes had some cuckoo clocks in there to repair. But he was quite kind of... Now, I have to backtrack, because when my mother died when I was 2 years old, she took us girls in to stay with her.
Your grandmother did?
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know whether she was afraid of at that time, or earlier than my time, but earlier then, when she married my granddad, because he had a house up on the south side, but she wouldn't live there, so he fixed it up. And so actually, he had a living room was right on the front street, and then back there was a little sitting room, and back there was dining room, and back there was a kitchen and a bathroom. And then our bedrooms were all upstairs. Mm-hmm. But, so when, like I said, I was 2 and my sister was 4, and she took us girls. But I think the boy stayed with my dad for a while, up above his store. That's where we had to live then. But she had us 2 girls, and we, if I remember rightly, we all ate there, because I can remember my brothers fighting it at the table. But they were just 2 years apart, and my sisters and I were just 2 years apart. But my brother was 12 years older than I am. My other brother, Jim, the one that had the marina, was 10 years older than I was.
Okay.
So we were real close. So my brother Jim, kind of took took care of me in a way. That was his favorite. He liked to make candy. Like cherry-covered flavor, chocolate-covered cherries and things like that. Quite elaborate candies. And he'd always let me come in with him. And I know he always remembered me with the nicest presents. I put one I remember the nicest, that he gave me a whole set of toy dishes, doll dishes, but they were fairly big for doll dishes, that had blue birds on them.
Okay.
Had blue birds on them. I remember that from him. But
do you remember the shop where he might have bought the candy in town?
I don't. I probably bought it at one of the drugstores.
Okay.
Most likely. Now, there is one that's still there that I went to school with.
The Oaks?
The Oaks, yeah. from a little acorns to great old girl. I remember the teacher saying that. Anyway, anyway, we went to Grandma's and stayed there, and then that was quite close to the schools and things if you want to jump to the schools. So, well we have other things that, of course,
Can you talk about your dad a little bit? What was his business?
Well, we had, I call it a junk shop, but it's kind of a variety store type of thing. He did have musical, he had records and things like that too, music. And, but his big love, I think after my mother died, he kind of lost interest in the store, but because she really more or less took care of it and had somebody take care of us. But, because he built his boats, a lot of them, right out and back onto a kind of an addition onto the back there behind the store.
Could you show us the pictures of his boats that he built?
Yeah.
That'd be great. Very cool.
Now these are the pictures of the boat. The Eleanor over here was the largest one. I think it says 30 foot here. Probably that he ever built. But these other ones are, well, I think this one below here is one he built before. But these other two are ones he built while I was probably around there. And in this picture here is Jimmy. It has over on this side. Okay. I don't know if you can see it there.
Right there.
There. And then this is my dad. And this, I'm not quite sure, but I think it's Dwight. David, my sister's boy, Dwight. And this boat, I think, was also built after the Eleanor. But he did keep the Eleanor for a long time. And we had more darn fun in that Eleanor. Oh. We used it, and I had a couple of cousins that had a granny that took care of them, Granny McGonigal, that took care of them, and they came up for the summer months. And we would have a ball.
Were they sailboats or power boats?
They were sail and power.
Sail and power.
Now this one looks like it's just power here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The other two look like.
Yeah.
The other two, I think, were both sail. I know Eleanor was a sailboat, though we had power. Yeah, we had power.
Did you go out onto Lake Michigan when you sailed?
The only time that we ever really go out in Lake Michigan to sail was when we had a storm, because it was a big, heavy boat, and the only time it sailed good was when we had a storm. And I can remember, I didn't go to Beaver Island with him very often, but he made various trips to Beaver Island with his gang of men and fished, and he'd come back with a tub full of fish. They went over to a lake on Beaver Island called Lake Genevers. And, I went with him once, and we ran into a storm on the way back. And I was just in my glory. I just loved it. My sister couldn't step on a rowboat, my dad said, and she'd get seasick, but I just loved it. I thought that was wonderful. I was up there in the bow and water was spraying at me, and I was really having a ball. But guess it was too dumb to be scared.
You just, it was right for you.
I guess that takes care of these boats, but there were several other boats that he made besides these.
Did he start the Marine service, or did your brother Jim start it?
My brother Jim and my brother Charlie, actually, but my Charlie sold his share. My brother Charlie sold his share shortly after, whereas when Jim got up going good enough, so he bought Charlie out. Charlie didn't. Then he never did have anything but a financial interest in it. Jim did the work and everything. Okay. And
have there been a marina there before, or was that the first one?
I think that, you want to know what it was before? It was the, what is the name of this famous fish Both fisheries before that. They used to come, we had a lot of fish boats. They'd come with their fish, and sometimes they'd have, of course, the Jewish people couldn't have the fish if it was gutted and stuff, but they just take the live fish and send them by carloads into New York and stuff, where the more Jewish people were. Though we had quite a few in the south. Well, see, I was born in 1918, and that was 1 month before the armistice was signed for the First World War.
Yeah.
But when I got married and stuff, then I moved away.
Okay.
Though I did married a sailor at the time. And he wasn't a sailor when I met him. But he, right behind where we live, right behind Front Street, you go across there, what is the name of that first street? Anyway, his stepdad and mother, his stepdad was a lighthouse keeper.
Okay.
And he came and they lived there. And when he first came there, George was working on a boat. He started working when he was 16 years old.
Oh, who did? Your husband? Was this your husband?
Oh, my husband, yeah.
Okay.
Shoveling coal.
Shoveling coal when he was 16.
Yeah, it wasn't legal, but
No.
he did it. He did, and but he wasn't that young when I met him. But anyway, he came home for the winter months, and I don't know. I guess his stepbrother he had some stepbrothers within my class of school.
Okay.
And I don't know how it happened, but anyway, he's the one that introduced me to George.
Okay.
And of course, it was practically love at first sight as far as I was concerned, though he was quite a bit older than I was. But anyway, I think I was about 16 then. By that time, I was actually, if you're going back to the schools, of course, I would have been in high school about my junior year.
Okay.
And I just got lucky. I got in a class that, you know how every once in a while they'll pass a few people that are a little slow. No, it's not me.
Yeah.
But I luckily got to be salutatorian.
Oh, well. You're being very humble, Adaline.
Well, no, I think it was a bit of luck. Because it seems to me I would have been in the class of 40 at Michigan State if I'd graduated.
Okay.
Because I went 2 years, and then I married George.
And what did you study while you were at Michigan State?
Oh, well, I was going to actually be a teacher, but it was education and what was the other? I think it was probably English. I'm not quite sure what it was. My second one was. They had quite a lot of English or history. History and English were my favorite subjects. But I did have some educational subjects too in those 2 years.
No.
I took a little Spanish, but I think it basically would have been teaching. But I never went the last 2 years, so I never really ended up teaching.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your wintertime activities that you remember when you were a girl.
Well, of course, the biggest thing, and I noticed that you have it in some of your books, some pictures of those
Bobsleds?
bobsleds went down right down the middle of Main Street. My dad, I think, had the biggest one. And often we would go across the bridge, too.
All the way, you shoot all the way down and then all the way across the bridge.
It was a long walk back. But outside of that now, I liked to skate, but I never was, you know, I just skated, that was all, not any fancy stuff at all. We used to sometimes play, what was it? Something about the whip. When you get a whole bunch of them together, crack the whip and go bunch them together, and that was kind of fun over it. I went, of course, the skating rink was right in front of this high school, so it wasn't very far to go. Outside of that, now, we did have, and she wanted me to mention it because it was a little bit different. When Lake Charlevoix occasionally would freeze nicely, so it was smooth. And we would go out there and skate. But my dad did have skate sails that we could hold. Oh. And he had a small one for us that was smaller than the bigger ones that we could skate sail with.
Wow. I've never heard of that before. That is unusual.
Yeah. So that was a little bit different. And, but it was very rare because it wasn't very often that Lake Charlevoix wasn't any, and you couldn't do it at any place else. Yeah. But talking about, and I think you have pictures, but I do have pictures of it, but it's out at our cottage on the lake. But of one year when they had those caves, snow caves alongside of that, I may have seen some in some of the other things you have, and you may have seen them.
Yeah, I think that Bob Miles has pictures in his books of snow caves.
Because that was unusual. I think that was the only time I remember of when I was a kid.
On Lake Michigan or Lake Charlotte?
Oh, this was Lake Michigan.
Yeah.
It was on Lake Michigan. Yeah. The waves were evidently big enough so they came and made very good caves that you could just walk right in.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite interesting. I mean, you know, it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember any stories of anything happening with either weather or...
You mean his storms or anything?
Yeah, something that might have happened, or...
We remember much about storms. They practically didn't plow the north side. That was, but we used to walk out to Mount McSabe.
Did you?
And they did have some winter sports out there a little bit at one time. Well, they do now, of course.
Yeah, they do now, of course.
But it's on the other side of Lake Mount McSabe.
Was there any place to sled on Mount McSabe then? Did you ever do this?
No, didn't slide on it.
Too many trees.
Mm-hmm. You know where we went with our toboggan?
Where? Oh, the Chicago Club. Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah. Chicago Club. And we used to go there in the wintertime in toboggan.
Oh, okay, because there were hills in there.
Yeah, well, they were more, you know, it was fun. That was fun. Some of them skied, but I never could stand up in a pair of skis, so we just took our time. We had a toboggan too, of course. Yeah.